Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's BDF44 coming at you with another video. All right, you can't see me. I think my camera's back. I don't know. Doesn't matter. Either way, point being, I've come here today because I was responding to a segment that I saw from Stephen A. Smith where he was saying he wasn't satisfied with the Isiah Stewart 2-game suspension. He felt it should have been more based on the display, not necessarily about the kid and his character in any way, shape, or form, but more so about the action itself. Him running over people trying to get to LeBron James. Just the whole scene itself was um, very bad, and Stephen A. felt that you got to kind of kill that behavior early. You got to nip that in the bud, so to speak. Keep anybody else from ever attempting to do something like that again. Um, my thing, I've made 2 videos on this, kind of talking about the situation as I saw it initially, and then talking about the backlash from not the backlash, but just reporting the suspensions and talking about that. But in this particular video, my thoughts are just more so about his comments. I don't necessarily think he was wrong, but I just don't feel like you want to punish Isiah Stewart for being big. And what I mean by that is this. If Isiah Stewart was 5'9", 5'10", like my height, 170 pounds, and he does that exact same thing, it does not have the same result. It's not going to be 8 and 9 people trying to restrain me. It's not going to be me barreling through people. I pack a pretty solid punch, but I'm not going to be knocking over 200-pound grown men if I'm trying to get to somebody. I think a big portion of the problem was just Isiah's size and strength. Holding someone back as they're coming at you in a rampage is enough. But when that person is the size of Isiah Stewart, it's like an elephant running over a bunch of people. I mean, it's really different. And I'm appreciative that the NBA didn't dock Isiah Stewart for being bigger. You know what I mean? It's kind of parallel to Shaq not getting his calls when back in the day. It's like just because he's big and he can power through contact does not mean that he's not being punished by the defense on every play. I mean, it got to a point where you could hear the slaps and they weren't calling just because he was big and strong. And the NBA heard a lot from the Lakers in regards to that. The Lakers complained a great deal about that back in the day, and it gave me the concept that I have here today. A big person is going to just do more damage, but it doesn't mean they don't feel pain. A big person is going to be able to barrel through people if they're frustrated, but I don't think it's the same result if the person's smaller. And I don't think the NBA would suspend Isiah for more games if he were smaller. So they shouldn't suspend him for more games, being that he's bigger. And that's really where I was coming from with that. I just think that size in this situation determined a lot of what we saw. The action itself, him from the inside, the person who he was when he was upset. I think a lot of people would be upset. Whether he was 7 feet tall or 5'10", he's going to be upset. And in that situation, he's going to react a certain way. What I didn't want to see was, because he's big and because he's angry, he's coming at people and it barrels over people and all this stuff. And now you want to suspend him for 5 games because the barreling of the people and the scene itself. The scene isn't as big if he's smaller because it doesn't require as much to hold him back. So I'm just happy that the NBA didn't dock him for that. And I think that's what I wanted to bring to Stephen A. It's like a lot of what you're complaining about is just based off the kid's size. To be completely honest with you, he's huge. You know what I mean? Now, had that been little Isaiah Thomas, he could have been just as upset, just as bleeding. But him running at somebody, it's not gonna require people to hold him back. You know what I mean? It's gonna take only a person or two to keep him from getting anywhere near any of that. It ain't gonna be that scene. It ain't gonna be all that. But he would still be on the inside just as upset. Still on the inside just as intent. But the consequences are different because a person's much smaller. So, that was my whole thing. That's what I didn't bring to the table in regards to the conversation before, because it didn't turn out to be necessary. The NBA, I thought, did the right thing. I felt it was right to suspend LeBron James for even though he said that he didn't do it on purpose. I thought it was the right move, just out of the sheer optics of all of it. It looked like he glanced at the man, and that's all we could go by. All you took is a glance, and when we see that glance, we understand that LeBron James then releases his arm, etc. That's how it looks on the camera. Can't be certain that he didn't do it on purpose. That's just what we see. So I felt the NBA did the right thing, just nip that in the bud. Even if Bron did it on accident, you're 18, 19 years in, you should be able to understand the NBA circumstance, swallow that and let it go, play a little basketball, get it out your system and move on. And that's what I think he did. It's not something that LeBron can really harp on and get too mad about, because at the end of the day, if you're in the NBA's perspective, you have to do something. You know what I mean? And whatever you do is going to be unsatisfying to somebody. So there's no winners here. You just got to do what you got to do. And as far as Isiah Stewart, well, the Lakers played the Detroit Pistons on Sunday. You get another crack at us. I thought we played them tonight though, but somebody said it was Sunday, so I gotta check. But I believe that game is on Sunday. And we're gonna have our work cut out for us. You know, that's gonna be a spirited matchup right there. I think they'll be a little healthier. I don't know where Kelly Olynyk is in regards to his return, but that will determine a lot in terms of their size matchup situation. But as far as that game is concerned, I don't know what to expect. You know, Isiah Stewart was quite mad. Maybe that still literally carries over. Maybe he tries to take a smack at him, in the game. I think you got to be prepared for that if you're the Lakers. I think you got to be prepared for that if you're the officials. And I would tell Isiah Stewart, if you're going to come in like that, don't even come, bro. You might as well just fake an injury or something. Just tell him you ain't ready to go. If your emotions ain't ready to see that, man, don't come out there. You know what I mean? And that's not from a perspective of saying, oh, you a punk or you can't handle it. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, if you're going to come out there and you ain't going to have the right spirit about you, ready to play basketball, you're not going to have a second chance at messing that up. You know what I mean? You get into it with LeBron James again, you may not have a career. Straight up. You know, they already want to paint you out to be a certain type of guy. I've already started to see the compilations of some of the incidences that you've gotten into with various players. It don't take nothing to build that reputation. You know, if I were acquainted with some of these guys in the league, if I were somebody that was close to Isiah, that kind of thing, I would be like, look, there's a guy by the name of Boogie Cousins I want you to speak to. There's also a guy by the name of Rasheed Wallace that I want you to sit down with. You know, those are the two players I would want Isiah Stewart to just have a seat with. You know what I'm saying? Because those are guys who can help him navigate through what he's about to deal with in regards to this narrative that they're going to paint about him. This is the first reputation. This is the first, first impression that most of the NBA fans are getting of Isiah Stewart. Outside Detroit and outside of people who followed him coming up, nobody is aware. So at this point, it's like, now you got this reputation. And undoing it, being that you did that to LeBron James or with LeBron James, however that's equated, that's not something that's going to shake off. People going to always remember you for that. You're going to always have your name associated with that no matter what you do in this life, just because of who LeBron James is. And that was a moment in LeBron's career. So you best believe your name is now the guy that came at LeBron. And that's kind of sucks, you know what I mean? Like, literally, don't matter what this dude do in his career, he could go off to be the next Patrick Ewing. When they tell his story, one of the biggest parts of it is going to be, he came lunging at LeBron James. And that's the thing. It's like, in that moment, a young player at 20 years old cannot fathom that this is something that could potentially follow him for the rest of his life. You know, not because it was so bad, not because it was so impactful necessarily, just because of the name attached to it, just because of who hit you, you know. So, I don't know. I think it's all unfortunate, but Isiah's going to have to do a great deal to try to reverse that. And I think the first step is to come into Staples Center and be a basketball player rather than somebody who's looking to get back, rather than somebody who's looking to make a point. Don't make nothing. Just make baskets. That's it. Just make buckets, bro. And that's how you overcome this. I think the best thing for a basketball player with a reputation to do is to make sure you're not the story, you know? Make sure you're not the guy anybody's talking about. Fall into the background for anything other than basketball. If it ain't because you boarded the ball or block a shot or dunk the ball, don't be remembered in that game. That's what I would try to tell a guy like Isiah Stewart. Don't give them any memory of you other than baskets. From here on out, like, just period. You got to be aggressive. I ain't saying tone it down. Keep pushing the same way you were pushing against LeBron in that box out. But as it pertains to some of the scrums, some of that extra, thin ice don't even begin to tell the story. That don't even begin to tell the story. This is a one-time event. Like, you mess this up, and they gonna blackball you, brother. Just keep it a buck. Anyway, that's what I got, man. My name is BDF44. Thank y'all for watching. I'm out.